There's a few important things nobody tells you about when it comes to Google Ads, and I personally believe not knowing these things is causing you not to scale your e-commerce brand to the next level with Google. So in this video, I want to expose these major things which you should absolutely know about if you want to scale your e-commerce brand to multi 6 and 7 figures per month in revenue. The first major thing which nobody really tells you about with Google Ads is Google Ads rewards rank. I see so many brands complain about how they're spending so much money on Google, how they're trying to be the highest bidder, but despite all of these, they're not ranking high on Google Shopping or even Google Search for that matter. And they complain that the Google Ads algorithm is out to get them, or maybe they have blacklisted their brand, and as a result, they're never going to be able to rank high. All these things are basically cope mechanisms when it comes to Google Ads, because what you want to understand is Google Ads is not a startup anymore. It does not care about how much money you're essentially spending per day, nor how much you're bidding per day. All Google really wants and all Google really cares about at this point of time is which brand deserves to rank high, period. It's all about being qualified enough to rank high. This means you need to run a brand which caters to its customers. You need to provide good customer service. You need to ensure your customers are actually interacting with your ads because your ads are high perceived value. They showcase exactly what your customers want to see, so on and so forth. All these things determine where Google ranks. So it's not just about the bids or the budgets. Now, don't get me wrong, bids and budgets are absolutely crucial for ranking high, but long gone are the days where you can just compete based on these two factors, because if that were the situation, then Amazon would be the only brand ranking in the top 5, 10, 20 listings even, because nobody can really beat Amazon's daily budgets or bids. So what you want to understand is you need to focus on the quality of your product. You need to focus on how your brand as a whole is getting perceived in front of your ideal customers, because if your perceived value is low, this is going to mean that less number of customers interact with your ads, and as a result, you're just not going to end up ranking anywhere near where you want to rank. So the best way to kind of reduce the amount of focus you have on the bids and the budget is to focus on the other side of the equation: landing page experience, the product images, how you do SEO for the product titles, the perceived value increasing keywords you added to these titles, what you do in the Google Merchant Center. All these things influence the equation a lot more than just your bids and budgets. But very important for you to understand if you really want to scale profitably with Google Ads. But this brings me to the second absolutely important thing you must know, and that most Google Ads experts don't tell you about. And this is more campaigns does not mean more scale. And this is one of the biggest misconceptions I see brands have to this day. They think that in order to scale from where they are right now to the very next level, they need to add maybe more shopping campaigns, maybe more performance max campaigns, or maybe introduce YouTube campaigns or demand gen. They think of all of these fancy strategies to add, and they end up adding these only to find out that their results are not even moving significantly. In fact, they're actually going downhill very, very quickly. This happens because adding more campaign types essentially is a good way to add more complexity to your ad account. And don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing to add more campaigns. In fact, a lot of the times that's how we also scale a lot of the brands we handle under my agency or marketing, which, by the way, if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need some extra help scaling to the next level with Google Ads, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen. And this kind of scaling is called horizontal scaling, where you add more campaign types. However, the most important thing you need to do when doing horizontal scaling is you need to ensure there is no type of overlap getting introduced as a result. I see so many brands introduce horizontal scaling, but then their keywords start competing with each other because now 2, 3, 4 campaigns are ranking for the same keywords. Or maybe they launch multiple performance max campaigns or smart bidding based shopping campaigns, and now these campaigns start to interfere with each other. This is when the problems arise, especially on the shopping ad side of things. So to prevent this from happening, you need to ensure that you don't have overlap getting introduced at any given time for your campaigns, and everything is very straightforward and smooth, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to add a lot of complexity. There's going to be internal bidding, internal overlap, and very quickly your own ad costs will increase because you're now bidding against your own self. And this is when the profitability starts to go down, revenue starts to go down, so on and so forth. But third most important thing nobody really tells you about Google is the 80-20 rule is really all you need. Now, this 80-20 rule basically says that 80% of your efforts should be going towards 20% of the things bringing in the results. This means 80% of your budget should be going towards 20% of your campaigns. This also means 80% of your overall effort should be towards cold traffic. 20% should be towards retargeting. The 80-20 rule is the perfect kind of leeway for you to use to balance out everything and to ensure you're spending money on the right types of approaches, right types of campaigns, so on and so forth. This can even go on to the product side of things, where 80% of your budget often is spent on only 20% of your products. Even if you go inside one of your major campaigns right now and you notice, maybe if you have 10 products in there, maybe 2 to 3 are the ones which are spending the most money. The rest, 7, 8 of these products, they're just kind of in the background, barely scraping by. This is how the overall algorithm works, and this is the exact approach you should be taking. Now, it can be applied to even your campaign strategies as well. Basically, 80% of your entire approach should be towards the best sellers. 20% of your approach should be based around the products that are not really scaling the most, but could scale the most, so on and so forth. Just as long as you follow this 80-20 rule for all parts of your business, especially with Google Ads, you're going to find that the algorithm rewards you with higher quality traffic, because now you're focused on the things which actually bring in results, instead of trying to do 10 different things at once with hundreds and hundreds of products all trying to get your attention, all trying to get your daily budgets. Fourth thing that nobody really tells you about Google Ads is the foundation of your entire ad account is much more important than the ad strategy itself. Now, so many brands believe that the best way to scale with Google is to go inside the ad account, launch a bunch of stuff, do a bunch of campaign strategies, approaches, so on and so forth, and that's essentially what's going to introduce the scale. Now, on a very surface level, that might seem like what's driving the sales up. That's what might seem like is driving the scale in total. But the reality is your real scale begins from the ground up, the foundation up. What you do on the product feed, the product images, titles, Google Merchant Center reviews, programs, what you do in terms of how you lay out your descriptions and your landing pages. All these things are part of your foundation. And the more solid your foundation is, the easier the time you're going to have with your ad strategy. Because keep in mind, foundation is step one, and then you build your ad strategy on top of this foundation. It's like the small lower layer of a tall skyscraper. You need to ensure the layer, the foundation of that skyscraper is very, very strong to support all the 70, 80 stories that it goes above the ground. Same thing with Google Ads. Your ad strategy can be mediocre, but if you have a very strong foundation, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be able to scale your brand to multi-6 and multi-7 figure levels. But fifth and final thing nobody really tells you about Google Ads is scale essentially works in phases. You cannot just go into your ad account and want to increase ROAS and revenue all at the same time, because on a fundamental level, that's not how Google operates. There's always a sacrifice that gets done during the scaling process, and this is why you need to take scale through phases. What we like to do is, if a brand is very unprofitable or just on the verge of break even, we put all of our efforts on the return on ad spend side of things, really increasing that ROAS to ensure it gets to the very next level, and that's the first step of scaling. Once we have achieved a decent level of ROAS, maybe it's 1x to 2x above where the break-even levels are, and the client or just the brand owner is satisfied with those results, that's when we then shift our entire focus to the revenue side of things, and we go all in on revenue, trying to scale that up, because that essentially brings us to the ROAS once again. So it's always a mixture between ROAS, revenue. It's like this little cycle that your brand keeps going through at any given time, and this cycle never really ends. It doesn't matter if you're at a 3x ROAS or a 10x ROAS. This is always going to be how you scale with Google Ads to the next level. And most brand owners don't realize this. They try to go with an all-in-one approach. They're trying to increase revenue and ROAS at the same time, and that's why they really struggle to attain any types of decent results. But again, if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need some extra help scaling to the very next level with Google Ads. Go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen.